The views and opinions expressed by the hosts do not state or reflect those of the company and its management. Furthermore, the assumptions, views, opinions, and insinuations made by the hosts or the guests do not reflect those of the show, the management, and the company.
Identify, discussed, understand. Casting live from Manila, Philippines, we are Simply Security, helping you streamline security easily.
Good evening, Philippines.
Good evening, listeners.
Welcome back to another episode of Simply Security, recorded today, live, 2nd of December, 2020. I am Miles Melia.
And I am Eric Lindogan,
Welcome to Simply Security.
helping you streamline security easily.
Hello, Eric.
Good evening, Miles. How are you?
I'm good. Good evening to our listeners. And tonight is an exciting podcast, or let's say conversation, because
We'll be talking about the security conversation in relation to the upcoming holiday season.
yes, this is very
For-
timely.
Yeah, very timely. And can you imagine it's already December?
No.
It's like parang we woke up ng February and then we jumped now and it's already December.
And we're
So-
still in the pandemic,
Yeah.
So
Sure.
to be honest, Eric, if could pandemic work against the threat actors,
Mhm.
or are there new modus operandi that we should know about?
All right. So tonight we are joined by a
Special
former
to you,
colleague.
Eric.
Yes. He's my senior when I first started with Business Profiles Incorporated, and we've been into a number of exciting projects in the past, and to whom I've also learned a lot, especially when it comes to remaining calm amid nerve-wracking situations.
Oh,
Yes.
I have.
So
He has to be my friend.
he was formerly a part of the asset protection group of Business Profiles Inc. for more than a decade. So he's he's one of the founding members. No, just kidding. So he worked as a security researcher for the Philippine College of Criminology. Currently, he sits as the customer relations manager for 34 centers of Waltermart Shopping Center in Luzon. Under his leadership, his team have promoted productivity among within WM Guard Force and developed safety and security gold standards for the company. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I am very excited to introduce to you my senior, Eduard Martinez.
Hello, Sir Edward. Nice
Hello,
to
Edward.
meet you.
Hello, good evening, and
Good
thank you for
evening.
having me tonight.
Yeah. So as you can
Advance
see, Miles,
happy
he's very
holidays.
calm and very composed.
I know you're so soft spoken.
Yeah.
But yeah. So so Edward, how have you been? It's been a long time since you last, saw each
Yeah.
other.
Now it's
Uh,
virtual.
Yes. How long have it been? So 5 years,
Wow.
more than 5 years. Yeah. After
Really?
since the last engagement that we have,
Mhm.
Mhm.
so many things have changed. Since,
Yeah. And it's very interesting na from your security function, you went into a different field, which I think I kind of understand what's the strategy behind this. So currently you sit as the customer relations services
Yes.
of Waltermart.
Yes.
For how many years now?
5 years. So
Okay.
after my stint at Business Profiles, uh, that's where I went directly. Tapos yun, I was chosen to be part of the Waltermart security group.
Mhm.
And
And in
the
all-
next
Related.
officer, yeah.
Yeah, it's still related. And in all fairness, I was like telling Miles backstage or earlier the episode. There's really a lot of, not because I know Edward, but I saw a significant improvement when you go inside Waltermart, because there's a Waltermart nearby in my office here in
Oh.
Chino
I know.
Roses. Yeah.
It's the
Eric,
impact that
Eric
you're
is a
trying to
regular
mean.
customer of Waltermart.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I always try observing what's the strategy behind or what are the improvements in the strategy that they've put in place. But anyhow, Edward,
Yes.
so let's go
You would like to
straight
know
or
you
dive-
more?
yeah, let's dive into to the conversation. So
Yeah. Okay. I am very interested because, like what Eric said, he speaks highly of you as his former colleague. But I would like to know first, how did you start in this career, merging or marrying security and customer relations?
Of course, I learned security a lot from business profiles.
Mm-mm.
So coming from a point of view of a service provider, I entered into a corporate world. So what I've learned from business profiles as a service provider or a consultant, I applied to
Oh,
my job as a CRS manager.
and
okay.
Edward, can you tell us your? I'm just curious about what's your daily task under this function.
Mm.
Well, part of my daily task is loss prevention.
Mm,
So, as uh, being said so, I am tasked to develop security programs to prevent different incidents that are transpiring within our premises, not only in shopping centers, but also in our tenants, particularly supermarkets and department stores. But for this time, my focus will be more on the shopping center crimes.
Is this kind of a regular thing? Because as far as I know, when you talk about customer service relations, basically, you have your executives representing the company, and then they're basically talking to customers or clients.
Yes.
And for me, it's kind of strategic that it's not usual for me to see a customer relation service executive to have a security function. Is this
Yes.
something
Is
that
this a new
your
trend?
industry? Yeah. Is this a new trend?
Well, actually, it's part of our rebranding of security uh, to
Mm,
to get security forces closer to the customers. So
Oh.
that's our strategy on profiling and
yeah,
preventing crimes. So
yeah,
in that
because
way, we were able to get feedbacks and information from our customers.
yeah, I kind of get the wisdom because one security guards are actually considered as frontliners aside
Of
from
Yes.
course.
your customer service, and then
Yeah.
it's actually
They perform two roles.
yeah, exactly. And then at the same time, if you happen to have a proactive and communicative security personnel, your customers will not be intimidated to ask questions or to
Yeah.
Yes.
to
Yes.
report suspicious behaviors to them
There
because
will be no apprehension.
exactly. So
Mm-mm.
I kind of get it kasi parang like for instance, there are customers who just mind their own business when they do
Yes.
groceries, and
Agree.
then sometimes they feel na they would be quite hesitant to approach a
Mhm.
security guard.
Mm-mm.
So if you happen to have a very communicative or proactive security force, it would encourage customers to approach them, and then it becomes part of your security strategy.
Mm-mm.
Makes sense.
Yeah, Edward, yeah.
Actually, Eric, at first, it was very hard for us, to
Mm,
the security team, to convince our bosses that
mm,
the key for incident prevention is to uh, get our security team closer to our customers.
It
right.
is for them
So,
to loosen up to the customer
yes, yes,
somehow.
yes.
Kind
And actually, there
of
are two
ironic.
sides of it. Uh,
Yeah.
some look at it as a relaxed security.
Yeah, weakness.
All right.
Yes.
Right.
And some look at it as you mentioned, Eric, they are not intimidated to the security to report.
Mm-hmm.
So it opens their, it builds openness between customers, between tenants and
Mm-hmm.
security team
Yeah,
to report incidents. Yeah.
I think the approach that you're trying to do is for the security personnel to look intimidating to the threat actors, but friendly somehow to the customers.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But it's
Yeah.
just
Actually.
the strategy or just the way you do things,
Yeah.
right?
Kasi
Exactly.
parang as of the moment, as I just wanted to follow up with what Edward have mentioned earlier. It's like this particular strategy is like, it has its pros and cons, right?
Of course.
Can you the pros there, as we've discussed, is that you know your customers, your staff, your personnel are now more communicative or approachable to your security
Comfortable.
force, right?
Yeah.
um,
Yes.
However, you've also mentioned, it's also interesting that you've mentioned it, that there are some who view this approach na parang, your security could be too lax,
Yes.
too weak.
Mm.
Yes.
Can you indulge us further about that?
Well, actually, for us, uh, it's our strategy. So
Mm.
we would like these threat people or these lawless criminals to perceive us as relaxed security. But
Mm.
Ah,
on the back
But
of
there's
their
a
mind,
profiling involved.
yes, that's what I'm
cool.
telling. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we're teaching our security guards to profile these criminals. What are their basic characteristics? Because
Mhm.
they also evolve,
Mm.
so they also profile as security.
Right.
So that's a strategy where we attack them.
Yeah.
So
So
it's an advantage
yeah,
to
yeah,
have that
Yes.
kind of
yes.
environment.
Because to be honest with you, Miles, being in the security industry,
Mm.
sometimes we most people deemed security force or security guard as mere warm bodies. Na parang, they're just standing on the post, and
Mm.
then they're
Correct.
usually
Check
either the
everything.
yeah, either the company would use them to check, to check, to frisk, or to open the door, or to answer directions.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm.
So I think it's a very proactive
Yes.
strategy for Waltermart to have this kind of approach. All
And
right.
Now,
if I may
uh
add, Eric,
Mm.
after the result doesn't come overnight. So
mm,
Exactly. Mm.
after 3 years, then we realized that our incidents are going down by 50%.
I see. I
that's a
see.
So
significant
yes, that's a
Yes, it
number.
is.
significant decrease. And the prevention rate of our team has gone from 5% when I entered Waltermart up to now, which we are now at 65% prevention rate.
Oh
So
wow.
But I have a question. What was the reaction of the frontliners, shall we say, with
Mm.
these changes? Did they embrace it immediately, or did they have apprehensions as well, as like, how are we going to do this?
of course, there are some hesitation. Uh, it's their training from the security training
To be
company
safe,
that
yeah.
to be strict, to be tiger look.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
tiger look.
So yeah, so when they entered Waltermart, we introduced them to implement angel look. So that's yeah. So some would not how you call this, would not last long with us because of their
Mhm.
training, but
Mm.
some who realize that parang mas nagiging tao sila, mas nagiging truth sila.
Humanized.
Yes,
Hmm.
they are
I see.
humanized. They realize that it's a good thing for them.
Right. My probably my last question, Edward, for this particular segment is that, communication is one thing when you talk about security force. Proactiveness is another.
Yeah.
Diba? Kasi most of the time when you have like security force, the general characteristic, aside from being intimidating, very very strict or what
Hard to
have you, is
approach.
yeah, is basically they could also be very, I think it's very cultural. So how do you surpass that, that culture, the general
Culture,
perception na, yeah,
that kind of barrier.
would a
Well,
security guard really approach, because you wouldn't see like a security guard approaching one person just to ask them what's inside, something to that effect.
What do they need? Yeah.
actually, we develop an internal training for them. So
Mm-hmm.
as soon as they set with Walter Mart, we gave them these modules on how to approach these customers, how to profile suspicious persons, and how to ask questions, particularly mga leading questions that would be used for profiling, for information dissemination, and for prevention.
Yeah, that is just the first segment. We will be having a short break after some reminders.
Casting live from Manila, Philippines, we are Simply Security, helping you streamline security easily.
Welcome back to Simply Security. Tonight we have Mr. Eduard Martinez, Relations Services Manager of Waltermart Shopping Center Management Incorporated. And we are going to discuss the second segment of the episode, talking about new and common holiday crimes in the Philippines amid the ongoing pandemic.
But what is interesting in our segment is, if you remembered, Eric interviewed myself and Haris Julio, our regional correspondent from Cagayan. I think that was 2 weeks ago. So it was like Eric asking us to correspondence. Now I will be the one asking from questions that are about our topic tonight, which is navigating these holiday crimes. And Eric will also be one of our resource speakers. Okay, so
I will do my best, Miles.
all right. So let's start. Based on your knowledge and expertise, I will start with you, Sir Edward. Why is the upcoming holidays considered as a security red flag?
During holiday, there is a spike of how we call this crime-related incidents. So crime against person, against property, and customers are not exempt from those crimes. Particularly on our setting in the mall, as our task is to make their shopping experience safe and secured.
Secured, yeah.
So during these times, there are lots of how you call this organized crime groups or mga lawless elements that are proliferating in the premises of the malls. So during this time, as in the past, incident spikes, and then how you call this, people are starting to troop into our premises or to the malls or to any other shopping places, and that's when these customers become so engrossed with their shopping, they forget to look after their valuables.
Belongings.
Yeah, I was about to ask that because one of the elements when it comes to crimes like this is by giving these threat actors or these lawless people the opportunity, you know. Some are relaxed in a relaxed environment or too happy because they received their 13th to 15th month pay probably. But how about you, Eric? On the security research, why is this a red flag? Holidays.
Actually, the upcoming holiday is what we call seasonal red flags. Aside from November, December, you also have another seasonal red flag, which is usually during summer season. Summer season, because during that time you have a lot of people, having their vacation. But simultaneously, there's also an increase in household costs. Household costs, because during this time, this is the time wherein people, families are starting to put in money or think of where they were going to source their the money for their children's tuition fee. Yeah. So similar with this particular last quarter season, you also have an influx of residential costs or residential expenses, because this is the time wherein families will have to think of how money or finances to buy gifts, or to have like Noche Buena. You also have your Medianoche. And basically, this is also the same period wherein the money is a big amount of money is circulating, or flowing in the demographic. So this is definitely an opportunity for crime groups to take advantage of. And basically, since it's also a holiday season, most people are actually outside,
Mm,
either doing
Yes.
their Christmas rush, shopping, or they're celebrating with their friends.
yeah,
So
exactly.
once they're outside, they're also vulnerable or exposed to
Mm.
to certain crimes, especially if, as you mentioned, if they're not security aware of what's
Yeah.
happening within their surroundings. That's why for us in the field of security, holiday season is considered as a seasonal, red flag.
Red flag. Well, I am very
Mhm.
interested to know after this holiday if pandemic has
Yeah.
somehow an effect as to this
Mm-hmm.
modus operandi.
Yes.
But yeah, so let's.
Definitely.
Ah, really? Okay, let's talk about that.
Kasi,
So
kunyari, for
after it,
now,
yeah, sorry. So after how long it has been? 8 months of
8 months.
right,
being quarantined. Yeah, people were so excited to get out of
to go out.
their
Yeah.
Ah,
residences. Yeah, so
yeah.
so forgetting about being security aware and
True.
to spend, to socialize, to enjoy. So yun. So they're
Oh,
giving opportunities to these
Oh,
lawless
okay.
uh, individuals.
there's actually, if here in Manila, if you're going to go out, you will observe that pedestrians and vehicles the traffic are starting to build up again.
Yeah.
Mm,
And even I live in Makati, and Makati is really known for its traffic. And there's always this saying na parang traffic volume in Metro Manila or in Makati is like, you know kapag umulan, it's horrible. If it's
Mhm.
raining and then it's payday, it's catastrophic. And then if it's raining, it's payday and it's Christmas rush, it's
it's hen.
disastrous. So
Yeah. True.
now it's because before it's interesting kasi parang for us we thought that the pandemic would prevent
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what I'm
people to
thinking.
go out. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
But not.
apparently there's this
Yeah.
particular phenomenon.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's like
forgot
a
the right
factor.
word. Yeah, I forgot the exact terminology. Parang spend revenge, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh.
Spend revenge is
Mm.
like, since most people were prevented or were so
Isolated.
repressed to spend their money, from their usual routine. Now, since the community quarantine have eased up,
Yeah.
they
Oh.
find this opportunity to spend as much as they can.
Because
Yes.
they already saved as well somehow. They were
Exactly.
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
forced to save.
True. And that's basically if you happen to have a lot of people outside, that's the time that, because before, as far as I could remember, the PNP have actually released a statement that criminality in Metro Manila and even in the entire Philippines actually dropped down almost
Yeah.
Yes.
50 to 80% because of the
Mm-mm.
community
That's
quarantine.
true. That's true, Eric.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, simply because there's really not a lot of people
Going out.
outside during that time.
Yeah.
So now, since the quarantine have eased up, this is the time that we are expecting, a lot of people probably being victimized.
We have to be
So
more alert. Yeah,
yes,
Sir Edward, you were saying a while ago something. What is the situation in Waltermart or in your malls as to
Well,
the
actually, during the quarantine period, we have zero incident. So
oh
for 6 months, we
mm,
we enjoy this the phenomenon. So it's a blessing in
mm,
disguise for us.
yeah.
But since relaxing the quarantine since October or September, early September, we started to experience again a sudden increase in the incidents that are transpiring in our mall. So, adding to what Eric said, no,
mm,
we should also not how you call this. We should not also
It's like be
forget
complacent.
that
Yeah.
the
yeah,
pandemic also caused many people to lose their jobs.
Mm,
So
right,
this is
exactly.
one of the
one aspect,
factors,
no?
yeah, one
Trigger
aspect
factor. Mm,
trigger that would create mga modus operandi or
yeah.
some mga petty incidents against our customers or the
Mhm.
others outside of the mall.
Okay.
Exactly.
Now, to our listeners, brace yourself for these modus operandi that we're going to talk about, Eric and Edward. Yeah, well, let's discuss this most common modus of criminals during holiday season over the past years, and what you think uh, will also be possible to come up these holiday
Okay.
season.
Perhaps one of the
So
most
this,
popular
yeah,
during this holiday season is definitely salisi.
yeah.
Salisi is it's a strategy wherein you take advantage of a person's attention away from his valuables and take and basically get it. The interesting thing about salisi is that it has evolved in different modus. Kasi
Oh,
salisi has already been most criminals have been doing it for the past how many years, but the mere fact that it's still effective, they're still doing it. So you have salisi na you have like lalaglag baryagang, taking advantage of their victims' attention, kumbaga.
And
okay.
Salisi has been always been with us. No?
Yeah,
It needs no season to be to operate.
true.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
But I think for the holiday season nga lang, just imagine like you are doing a holiday rush. Have you seen the photos in Divisoria? Like
Yeah.
in Divisoria now, despite having the pandemic, people are starting to go to Divisoria to do their early Christmas shopping because they fear
Mm.
na if they do it late,
They will
it might
experience
be
the
too
holiday
late.
rush. Yeah.
Exactly. So now, since most people are too focused in what they're going to buy, because just imagine like a shopper, he doesn't happen to have like an idea of what he wants to give to a particular person or to a loved one. So it divides his attention to his surrounding just by thinking about it.
Yeah.
So these are the
Mm-mm.
opportunities most of
Oo.
your crime groups would take advantage of.
As to the Salisigang, no, I remembered in the Bicol region, there was a time wherein establishments are posting CCTV recordings or screenshots of the
Mm-hmm.
suspects of the
Mm-hmm.
Salisigang. And they noticed that from one area, let's say Iriga City, let's say Makati and then Pasig, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it just when the establishment from Pasig, for example, posted this screenshot from their CCTV recording, they noticed that the team or the people, the group is the same as the people who victimized a certain customer in Makati. So
Yeah.
by the it's not it's sort of a public service for these establishments to publish their CCTV screenshot. But have you noticed, because it's of course it's a gam, but do you have Edward, like profiles of those groups, for example,
True.
Yeah.
and because they have this tendency to go back to just one place because they
Yes.
know the architecture or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
do you have that?
Yes, we have. Actually, internally, we maintain this list of or a gallery of these lawless reports.
Your
Oh, have your own
VIPs.
row
Yes,
gallery.
our BITs. Yeah, yeah, Eric. That's the politically correct term. The BITs.
That's true.
Okay.
But
So,
that's interesting, Edward. Like for
yeah,
instance, I'm going to ask Edward naman because he's coming from the commercial center side. But is it really effective to post like a photo of that criminal? Kasi kunyari,
actually,
Online
if
or sa establishment?
we
yeah,
don't
kasi kunyari
allow
if
them to be posted publicly. But
mhm.
what we're doing every day before the start of duty of the security team, we give them exam on the profile of the
Ah,
criminals.
right, right.
Yes,
Cool.
particularly
Okay.
those who frequent us a lot.
I
So
remember
we
this,
we
Miles,
gave
kasi
them we gave them pseudonyms for
yeah.
us
I
to.
remember this because there's one particular activity, at least for business profiles, when we do stakeholder management, wherein you'll be given, for instance, Edward's face.
Yes.
And then you have to, um, and then they'll show you different sets of Edward's photo in different time of his life.
Mhm.
And then, having different because sometimes like an ordinary citizen would not really, is very, how can I say it, we're very forgetful about certain details.
Yeah, it's a
Like,
Yes.
talent to have a photographic memory.
Yes. Actually,
Okay.
that strategy I get from business profiles.
Ah.
So every day we gave them a different pictures of this knowledge individual for them to analyze, to study. So in the event that they come and visit us again, they would alert all our team.
right. So that's
Mm,
part of the profiling.
Yes, yes.
okay, so I think we have covered three, if I'm not mistaken, modus, right?
I think we still have the best friend, the best
Yeah,
friend gang.
Best
this
Yeah.
one. What is
I
this?
think Edward, because I think this is very common. It is still is the best friend gangs. My question is, what is best friend gang? What is
Mm-mm.
this modus? And then second, is it still prevalent among commercial establishments?
Well, actually, best friend gangs modus is likened to a dugo-dugo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're almost the same. One would pretend to be an a close company or close ally
Right.
or a close friend of a close relative of yours, and
Mm-hmm.
then they would give you some parang false situation
Right.
that would drive you crazy and without you knowing that they're already getting your valuables.
Yeah. There are also instances wherein, kunyari, when you're doing your shopping, for instance,
Yeah,
somebody would
approach
approach you.
you.
Let's say you're buying
Mm.
a cell phone, for that
Mhm.
matter, something that you want to give to your parents for Christmas, and then somebody would approach you, and then they would try to chat you. Part of the
Mm.
Yes.
social engineering process, and
Oh,
then they just have to show to the cashier or to the sales lady that you actually know each other, and then from that
establish
point
a
on
relationship.
Yeah.
yeah, they have to pretend that they know that they're their potential victim, and then from that point on, that's the time that they're going to purchase things, and then they would say that that the victim who
We'll pay
you
for it.
pretend, yeah, would pay for it. So it's like a best friend. This is the
Ah.
simplest strategy in the manual.
Yeah,
Mhm.
when I was a reporter, I think I have covered several stories wherein the senior citizens are the most
Yeah,
prone victims.
yeah, they're the
Yes.
easy
Yes.
targets.
Correct.
Yeah, so in that regard, Edward, how do you warn your senior citizen customers, or how do
Yes.
you deal
Yes.
with them to
Of
protect them?
course. In terms of managing the senior citizen, we ask our guards to to be friendly with them, to give them a simple tips, a simple how you call this, a simple reminder to be
Oh,
very aware of their
that's good.
surroundings and not
Oo.
to easily get enticed by somebody who they do not know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Bukas
There's
kotse.
Bukas kotse. Yeah, that's very rampant nowadays, particularly
Mhm.
in Bulacan area. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why Bulacan?
Recently, yeah, because three of our
There's a
malls in Bulacan has this incident recently.
What is the
So
period coverage? This year?
just last week,
Ah, okay, last year.
yeah, just
Okay.
last week.
Ah, last week. Okay.
Yes.
yeah.
So
In the
yes,
shopping parking area.
yeah, the parking area. So what they do, they have this special device, and they how we call this? They go around the parking area to spot an easy target.
Yeah.
Usually they
Old
target
cars.
mga hot cars or the AUVs,
Mm.
which
Oh.
are easy to open.
Yeah. And then
So
Okay.
sometimes then, correct me if I'm wrong, Edward. Most of the time, then, putting in valuable items inside your
Ah, yeah.
vehicle
Would
also
entice
gives
them.
that idea. Yeah, that would
yes,
entice. On
that's
my
true.
end, what I've noticed when it comes to vehicle mapping, it's a good thing that Edward have mentioned, four-wheel vehicle, but it's also important to take in consideration two-wheel vehicles, because
Motorcycles.
yeah,
Mhm.
because the ratio, as far as at least based from my recent statistics, from NCRPO and PNP is that the ratio would go under one car napping per, let's say, 10 to 12 motorcycle napping, because for most of the time it's easier kasi
Yeah,
it's
I was
easier
thinking that.
to
Yes.
steal a motorcycle, and then it's
Mm-mm.
also
True.
very it's easy for them to dispose it,
Mm-mm.
and
Correct.
then at the
You just
same
have
time
to
it's
change the parts.
exactly.
Yes.
And
Oo.
then at the same time, it's easier for them to evade, let's say, possible
Mm-hmm.
apprehension. Because if you're imagine like if you're stealing
Yeah.
an SUV,
It will be
and
on
then
the
there's a
list of the
traffic,
high
you know,
patrol, highway
yeah,
Yes.
and
patrol.
then there's a traffic. It would be very difficult for you to evade authorities. But if you're driving a motorcycle, it's very easy because you could just go around narrow alleys
Mm-mm.
or skinitas for that matter.
I see.
And
Now,
what's interesting, Eric, no? There's
opo.
only one brand of motorcycle that is
Yeah.
very
Really?
rampant to be.
Can
Yeah.
you mention it or there's media value?
No. No.
Yeah,
I'll tell
we
you
don't
off
want to be
air.
quoted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Mm.
But why is it the value of the motorcycle?
It's very easy to dispose. Like
Yes.
there's just simply a lot of people who use that kind of motorcycle,
Motorcycle. Yeah.
and
Oh,
most
I'm
of the
very
time,
interested to know.
yeah, most of the time your
Tell me
motorcycle
later.
nappers would not sell it as a whole. They sell
Mm-hmm.
it by
By
parts,
By
parts.
so it's
parts.
Ah, okay.
easier for them.
Okay. Just one question before we go to the next modus. Edward, have you caught, I mean, your company caught anyone as to the Bukas Coches? Because you mentioned
Yeah.
there were 3 cases last week.
Mm.
Yes. Okay.
How?
So, by profiling, and then by reviewing our CCTV cameras
Okay.
at the parking area. So we get the profile of those lawless individuals, and
Mm.
then when they able to come back, so our guards were very how you call this, very alert
Alert, yeah.
Yeah.
to escalate the information that the suspect is within our premises.
Oh.
I
So
see.
we invited them and turned over them to
But have you recovered the car? I mean, not the car,
no,
the
the
valuables.
valuables, no, not anymore. So,
Ah,
but we were able to charge the
that's good.
person together
Mm-mm.
with
Mhm.
the victims.
I
All
see.
right.
I see.
Okay.
I think this is more of the residential security. Basically this is like a syndicate wherein people would pretend to be or would target high value, how do you say it, residential subdivisions. Like
Mm-hmm.
usually what they do is they would enter subdivisions using or pretending to be like construction workers, or sometimes there are cases wherein
House help?
some of these people would peel off the car
This.
stickers of some
Okay.
residences who would park their vehicles outside their compound. So they use this sticker for them to they put it on their own vehicle so that they could go in. And then
Ah,
yeah,
okay.
and once they go in, they would pretend to be like a utility person from, let's say,
A
from
third
their,
party
yeah,
service
from
provider.
the electric company or from their internet service provider, and then they wanted to check. Most of the time they would target easy targets like house helpers, old people.
Yeah.
Of course this would involve a lot of social investigation before they would. It doesn't happen randomly. Let's just put it that way. It would involve a lot of social investigation. So once
Mm.
they go once they try social engineering that person would definitely sometimes would give access to the house, and that's the time that they would rob or declare hold up. So this is ways for them to be able to get access during this
Mhm.
pandemic. What is interesting is that the same modus operandi has been observed to some delivery companies, like, because
So
delivery,
food
especially
food
food
delivery
delivery,
service.
yeah, food delivery is very popular nowadays
Oo.
because of the pandemic. Most people would refuse to go out.
Mm-mm.
So, and sometimes even yung shopping deliveries, like sometimes somebody would just knock on your door and then they would say, ma'am, you have a delivery. For you as
from
an individual, even though you know that you don't happen to have any deliveries, or
you didn't order
you
anything.
didn't
You
order
don't even
anything,
know
the
any
mere
online
fact
shop.
that there's something for you,
Yeah, yeah, you will be
you would
excited.
accept it. Yeah. So,
Oo.
but this is, this is a loophole, a security lapse. So there are people who would pretend, and then just for them to be able to gain access of a residence. So yeah.
Okay. Regarding this matter, because before we jump into other crimes or to other modus, how since you mentioned this is a residential crime, most often it happens like that. What will you be your advice to homeowners, or
Mm.
let's say subdivision security management, for example, as to
Mhm.
how to spot these con artists.
With regard dun sa coming into a residential area, uh, what's the best thing to do is to verify, to validate.
Mhm. Mhm.
So in the
Ah,
event that something unusual came in, so you have your relatives, you have your
Right.
children, you have your siblings to call and to ask them for a specific item if
mhm.
they're able to send it for you or in behalf of you or in behalf of them,
Yeah.
Do not,
then you
wow.
have to call them, yes.
And I
And
think
then if,
it should start even sa guardhouse. Eh. Like
yes,
there are
yes.
Yeah,
already
like how?
In
subdivisions who
private
does that.
subdivisions,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
They
Oo.
should implement yung mga permits to
Right.
go around or
Verification.
yes, verification on those people, on who are they going to visit, diba? Yun.
Yeah.
Are
So
you expecting a visitor, something like that?
Yeah.
yes, yes, or
Mm-mm.
to even have these how you call this, to call the homeowners if they are expecting someone.
Oo.
Right.
All right.
On my end, Miles, I think what is also important is more on having like a moment with your house helpers or with some members of your family to create like a protocol. Kasi most
Mm.
of the time, when you have
It's like a drill.
it's like a
Yeah.
drill na parang in the
Oo.
event, let's say something knocks on your door, and then let's say tell them na, oh, your mom or sir had an accident, you know
Yeah.
kasi most of the time house helpers are also not fully aware of what's happening,
Mhm.
so the usual tendency is to give in. So as if you happen to have that protocol in place and you're actually simulating it, I know some families who would also test even their house helps or their children, like
Oh,
mothers or fathers pretending to simulate certain scenarios
a very
just
security
to
aware
check,
person.
just to check whether or not their house helpers or their children are following the protocols that they've set, parang
That's
ganyan.
cool. Yeah, I think we have to do, yeah, I think we have, it's not just about earthquakes. You have
Yeah.
to have those kinds of drills as well. But what if the lawless person is already there? The con
Mm.
artist is already at your door, or let's say he or she is facing you. What are you gonna do?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, go back to the basic. Don't talk to strangers.
Yun nga eh.
So
Yeah,
that would really help them a lot.
not
So
interested, something like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
or
something
Mm-hmm.
like that. And then as I said earlier, validate, verify with your colleagues,
Mm-hmm.
your relatives, or
mm-mm,
your friends, diba?
mm-mm.
So just just to drive away those lawless individuals.
Yeah.
Okay, before I move on, how are you going to spot? Is there an indicator of a con artist? It's like a general quality on how to spot a con artist, or
Con artist.
For me, it's always it's the most commonsensical thing. If
Yes.
it's too good to be true,
Too
it's
good
not
to
true.
then you
be true.
have to be very suspicious about it. When I say if it's too good to be true, a perfect example is that if a delivery went into your place and you're not expecting a delivery, and then there's like a big box right in front of you, it should be too good to be true.
It's a Trojan horse.
Yeah, it will definitely be a Trojan horse. So you have to go back to the protocols that you've put in place.
Kaya nga.
So,
And if
You
the
have to
con
have
artist is
protocols.
too persistent, then
yeah.
Ah.
And you know
proving
what?
your interest.
Yeah. And another thing that I would always tell my clients is that always be aware of social engineering tactics.
Mhm.
I'm going to lay out my cards when it comes to this one, but when we say
Yeah.
social engineering tactics, be wary against very charismatic or very charming people or very charming strangers. So most of the time, if they're very,
It's if
uh,
they're too nice to be true. They're not
exactly too
nice.
nice to be true, or they're smooth talkers, then
Yeah.
that's definitely like a red flag
Or
for you.
feeling close.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
anything that is unexpected. Like, kunyari, if there's really no scheduled utility check, then, that's already a red flag. So definitely there's an increase in terms of digital crimes during the pandemic because as we've mentioned, I think we've been reiterating this in Black
Yeah.
Pearl that the current pandemic did not lessen the crime. Okay,
Mm.
it just basically pushed the
More.
crime in a different landscape.
Yeah.
From reality, it now transitioned into the digital landscape,
Which is
and
more scary because you
yeah,
don't know the
definitely.
person. I mean, you
Yeah,
don't see the person.
yeah,
Yes.
and definitely that's something that we have to be very worried. Remember that episode with Abel
Abel.
Quintos
Yeah.
when it comes to national privacy. What is interesting there was he highlighted that before, Filipinos in general or culturally were very sociable people. And personal data for us, it's more of like a trophy rather than something that we have to
To
to to
protect.
to protect, 'di ba? So if you have like a new gadget or you have like a new this or that, the usual tendency is always to
Mm-hmm.
expose it, parang, or to brag of that
To brag.
teacher. There's a newly licensed teacher. He got his PRC license, and the first thing that he done because he was so happy, he's very ecstatic about it. He posted it online on his Facebook page, and then 6 months after, he started receiving demand letters coming from a collection agency because apparently somebody stole his identity
Mhm.
and made personal loans. So just simple as that. And now there are studies with Mara, for instance, with Mara Miano have mentioned that during the early 2000, most of your cyber criminals were targeting bank credentials.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's look at
financial.
that.
Yeah,
We have that
but
study,
now
right?
it's interesting because as banking and financial institutions started to sophisticate their security measures, it became more problematic for cyber criminals to infiltrate it. So the next potential target was identity theft.
Oh,
Apparently, there's a lot of businesses that you could actually get in terms of personal identity of people because these are big data set. So
yeah.
you could definitely do a lot of things here.
On that note, I have a question for Edward. Do you have a data protection officer or data privacy officer in your company?
Yes. Yes, we do.
Okay.
So as much as we see to it that we comply with those provisions of the Data Privacy Act.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we
My
don't
question.
divulge information, even the releasing of CCTV footage.
Right.
It should,
Oh,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if
we
it's
are
the
there.
authorities, it's okay.
No, you
We
have.
facilitate by
You
we
have like a
facilitate them
protocol,
by reviewing our records, but we do not give them the copy.
a copy.
So we ask them to provide us court
Court
order.
orders.
Ah, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And
Yes.
then Edward, since you are, because of the current pandemic, definitely your commercial establishment also requires or compliant with, contact tracing procedures.
Yeah.
Mm,
And
of course.
because personally, I feel kind of, alarmed whenever I give my personal information, especially for commercial
I
establishments,
changed my
who would
last number.
yeah who would just give you like a logbook,
Logbook.
and then you're going to write, your name,
Everything.
your contact details there.
Yeah.
Your
So
address.
how do you
Oh.
deal with that?
We don't do manual contact tracing, something like that. Our IT team develops
QR code.
QR code, or we call it safe trace,
Yeah,
for
Ah.
Waltermart
but what if,
malls.
let's say, that customer is,
Doesn't
It's
he
have
doesn't
only
have internet connection?
we provide them parang manual QR code
Form.
for them, and
Mm.
all the data are saved for 1 month, and then it's automatically deleted.
Mm, okay.
I think
Common.
for this one, it's more on the personal. Apparently, I did like a webinar with IFSEC Philippines, and this is something that we found out. Wherein, these are the common personal data targets that cyber criminals are trying to, extract from individuals. And if you're going to look at it, as simple as complete name could actually uh, imply big threat or significant threat against individuals, especially if that complete name also happens to have like a specific identifier such as photo. Because if
Mm,
I'm a cyber criminal, the name would be difficult, especially if your name is Juan de la Cruz. But if you happen to have like a photo with it, or like a certain
attached.
specific identifier, it allows cyber criminals to do something against you. And I think this is very. I just wanted to reiterate, identity theft, especially in the Philippines, simply because sometimes our culture kasi is not really too strict in giving out personal identity. Like,
Yeah, we're too generous or
yeah,
welcoming.
like as simple as, buying a mobile load in your sari-sari store. You put in there your phone number, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So as simple as that. Yeah.
But it's not only the individuals who are prone to be victims of these digital crimes. Business
Yeah.
could also be prone. Do you have any experience relating to digital crimes, Edward? I mean, your company?
Well, I'm not familiar with the specific details of the crime, but as what we have discussed some 2 months ago, we
Mm-mm.
one of our tenant experienced uh, this kind of a similar incident to
Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
digital crime, wherein
Kasi when you talk about security, especially if you're in the security industry, it's always important to always be 3 or 5 steps ahead against your threat actors. But how do you do that? Definitely,
Exactly.
it takes a lot of creativity. That's the thing, eh? Kasi most of the time people think that security people are very, you know, box or very not
Eric?
creative. When in fact,
Okay.
security people head sorry. So security people are actually the most creative people that you would meet because continuously they are imagining
They have to
possible
evolve.
scenarios. Yeah, they have
Oh,
to be evolved. So you have to have a criminal mind in order for but do not
you have to do
do
not be
not
like
you
them.
yeah you just have to have like a criminal mind for you to be able to understand the situation and the modus operandi, and then at the same time you always also have to update yourself. It's always a continuous learning kasi the
Oo nga.
moment a security personnel
Because
said
they don't stop learning.
yeah,
True.
kasi your criminals wouldn't stop, wouldn't stop looking for opportunities.
Opportunities. Yeah.
So as a security professional, you also need to have, you always need to be continuous learning, kumbaga.
Your tip.
For me, the best thing to do is to always keep yourself aware of your surrounding. So
Mm.
do not be caught off guard as much as possible. So and also do not show off your valuables
Oo
Right.
nga.
and do not give them those how you call this the impression that you're an easy target. So
Yeah.
as mentioned by Eric, no, so you must
Huwag kang
be five
tingin ng tingin
steps
sa
ahead.
taas.
Correct. So
Or sa baba.
Or sa
always
baba.
set your
Be
eyes
confident.
straight, di ba? Be
Mhm.
confident, di ba? Parang
Ah,
hindi ka probinsyano, di ba?
Grabe.
Oo nga.
You're not how you call this, parang new to the place.
Exactly.
Sorry for the term, no?
No, I understand what you mean. Um,
Sorry,
I
Miles.
still have one question.
I also have to reiterate. I think
Oo.
culturally kasi Filipinos are very passive in nature.
Yeah.
And sometimes this is
Or too
something
excited.
too excited, and then kasi kunyari, let's say, even though they know that there's something going to happen,
Mhm.
sometimes they have the tendency just to brush it off. So
Ah,
I think it's an Asian thing. I'm not sure. Because compared to Americans, they're very vocal about it. When they feel that there's something, different, they would spur it out. For us Filipinos or most Asians, we're very, reserved, or we have to think it carefully before we could act on it.
Yes.
So
mm-mm.
sometimes I would always push our clients na, in these are extra special situations we're in, being assertive or being proactive would actually spell a lot of difference.
All right. Right. So there you go. That was a very interesting conversation. We will be having a short break, and after that, we'll have your Q&A and the Q&A and the quick talk.
Casting live from Manila, Philippines, we are Simply Security, helping you streamline security easily.
Welcome back to Simply Security. We have Mr. Eduard Martinez, Customer Relations Services Manager of Waltermart Shopping Center Management Incorporated. Mr. Edward and Eric, they're discussing about these new and common holiday crimes in the Philippines amid the ongoing pandemic. So
Or
at this point, we are going to read our listeners' questions and insight. We start with from Thomas Picora. First is, how do you train your security personnel? I think this is for Edward.
mhm.
To learn observation skills.
We provide our security team with the
That's one,
profiles
no?
of the suspects or of the lawless individuals. Then we also show them how they act as
Mhm.
captured through our CCTV cameras or
Oh.
from various sources to be aligned with the experiences from other companies or from other settings. And
Mhm.
then we give them examination.
Like
So
how?
as mentioned by Eric, we'll provide a blank face, and then we'll ask them uh, to to give details, the specific facial details of that individual, of that suspect. And then another part of the exam is how well they know the modus operandi of these individuals. And
Okay.
then we set them parang goal to achieve in order for them to be truly certified profilers of
Yeah.
our company.
And just to add, Miles, because
Mm-mm.
for instance, when it comes to profiling, one of the most challenging thing about it is that the issue of typecasting.
Mhm.
Yun nga,
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
for us when we did profiling, I mean, on my previous life, one of the most effective ways for us to be
Like, do
able
not
to
generalize.
to prevent typecasting from happening was to do probing questions or elicitations.
Mhm.
So when you talk about elicitation, it's basically an interviewing skill wherein you're trying to extract information from that particular person without that person knowing what you are trying to extract from him. So it's a talent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I think
And can be
this
learned from
also
experience.
yes, and then this also collaborates perfectly with the strategy that Edward was like saying. Now you
Mm-mm.
have to develop the communication skills of
Mhm.
your security personnel
Yeah.
because when you talk about elicitation or probing question, one of the most important factor there or important skill set is communication.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But
all right.
here's the thing. Related to this question, no. Um, I will read the question from Gengis Valdez. The challenge is not most, all of us are required to wear face masks.
Right.
So that this is another challenge for security
Yes.
personnel, right?
That's true.
So wearing a face mask is a challenge. So
Make
how
it
do
more
you deal with
difficult.
this?
That's
Yeah.
I
true.
think this was a question of Genghis Valdez, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we do when it comes to our entrances, we ask our guards to do random checking. So what do we mean by random checking?
Mm-hmm.
So we ask random individuals to
Take off.
quickly take off their mask in 2-3 seconds. So that
Mm.
our entrance CCTV cameras could capture them, particularly if those individuals are kind of suspicious
Ah.
at the parking area pa lang.
But what if the customer will say no?
Yeah. For
Well,
safety reasons.
yeah,
Oh.
of course we do not insist, pero what we're going to do, we'll ask our CCTV operators to follow and monitor these individuals.
Ah,
Mm. Yeah.
okay.
Particularly in which tenant they will go and what
Mm-mm.
will be their activities. Uh,
Mm-mm.
they are most likely suspicious when they come in group. So
Okay.
for
Yeah.
individual, that's very easy for that will be very challenging for us. But
Yeah.
when they come in group, that's easy for our profilers.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me read 90% of what security do in the mall and retail is all about customer service.
Yeah.
Because of that, shopping mall is considered a soft target
Soft
like
target.
hospital and school. But there must be target hardening measures in place, which are oftentimes not visible or obvious to
Mhm.
the public. I
Mm-mm.
would definitely agree with this one.
Yeah.
Edward, any
Yeah,
thoughts?
that's true. So target hardening is the key. So as he mentioned, no, uh, there must be measures in place. Part
Mm-mm.
of
Mm-hmm.
it are security systems, yung our electronic securities, and then of
Mm-hmm.
course yung how you call this, our people security, our guards. So that's
Yeah.
what we're training them to be. So to be more people oriented, for them to be able to profile them easily. Yeah.
Okay.
And to add lang, Miles, for non-security audience, this is something that I've learned when I started working with business profiles. There's such a thing as functional aesthetics. Functional
Yeah,
aesthetics,
that's another.
this is something that I've learned from asset protection team. When you talk about functional aesthetics, kasi for instance, for asset protection or from business profiles, your security hardening would depend on the industry your client is. So, for instance, if we're talking about commercial establishments, hospitality establishments, definitely you don't want to put in intimidating, security measures. Like you don't
Approach.
have to,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't, as much as possible, you don't put in like perimeters with, wires or fences on top,
Of
because it would
course.
look, for many clients, they would, or for many of their customers, it would look like this is not a safe place to be at. So
Mm-mm.
this is where functional aesthetic comes in. So instead of putting like, concrete perimeters, they would usually put in vertical vegetations or
Landscaping. Yeah.
gardenings, just to put in like certain
Functional
barriers.
aesthetics.
Yeah. So I think this is
That could be
also,
done.
yeah, this reinforces the existing security measures on the human side. So
Yes.
yeah. All
Mm.
right. So
Okay.
another comment from MJ Cruz, a
Yes, this
comment.
one.
Uh,
Sweetheart
na-
modus.
Sweetheart modus wherein the thieves are in cahoots with the cashier and their strategy is not to scan high value goods at the POS. I
POS.
think this sweetheart
Point on
modus would
sale.
also, yeah, would also apply for credit cards.
Yeah.
Like, especially during Christmas rush, most people, especially now in the pandemic, as much as possible, it is encouraged not to pay through, physical cash. So
Yeah,
that's why at least
contactless.
yeah, contactless. So you have, Gcash or credit cards, and most of the time, some people would just, voluntarily give out their credit card to a sales agent or a cashier, and then the cashier would just, walk away with your credit card without you knowing where he or she could have swiped it. Because
Yep.
sometimes there are criminals wherein they would have like a cloner and a legitimate card swiper. So sometimes what they do is they swipe it first on a card cloner, and basically the cloner would get all your information, and then that's that after that, that's the time that they would, swipe it in a legitimate card swiper.
Well, in this case, it's the employee of the
Yeah,
establishment who's
it's an
doing that.
internal threat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
So in this case, Edward, how do you make sure that you don't have this kind of problem in your establishment?
We do employee vetting.
Yeah.
So before they were able to give duties, our HR would see to it that they were properly vet, properly checked, and they undergone how you call this background investigation.
Yeah.
Do you
There-
allow
in some-
phones, using of phones while they're on duty?
It depends on the
On the
type
function.
of the functions of the employee. For
We-
the
we
cashiers,
also-
we do not allow them to use
To use their
personal
phones.
phone.
Yeah. We also happen to have clients wherein they would put in integrity testers. Integrity testers are like mystery
Ah.
shoppers, but
Yes,
for
yes.
security.
We also
Yeah.
do.
Okay. We have a question from our avid listener and participant, Sir Hermie Colina. What is the most common profile of criminals in shopping centers? Do we have that?
Being victimized by these criminals from time to time, we were able to get their how you call it, their profile, how they, what they do, how they operate. First, we profile them as soon as they arrive at our parking area, because sometimes when they come in group, they are in this type of vehicle. So whenever this kind of vehicle arrived in our parking area, our team was already alert.
Alert.
Yes. And then, behold and behold, those inside those vehicles are part of our profiling gallery. So, so yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes they change their image, but then
Right.
again, when they operate, it's still the same.
Yeah.
So they just how you call this? They just evolve their looks, but their
I have a question,
modus
Edward. I
still
have a
the same.
question because there are certain groups, or there are like your VIPs or your avid regular criminals.
Yes.
And most of the time, there are certain establishments who would usually, apprehend them, but they would not push through a
Filing of
case,
cases
filing of cases.
because of the
Kasi
hassle.
yeah, the
Yes.
hassle, the expense. Kasi if I'm a
Mhm.
criminal and I've, let's say, shoplifted a 500 peso worth of products,
Yeah.
diba? And the company would say, that the hassle of filing charges, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So the usual tendency now is, they would repeat it again. So
Mm-mm.
Correct. Correct.
how do you deal with this?
Uh, with our tenants, that's a common thing. They do not
Yeah.
want the hassle of filing a case. But when they, when these VIPs strike against our property or against Waltermart's, how you call this, valuables or mga high valued items,
Right.
we pursue cases even if it costs 25 cents or 1 peso.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. This is common among halimbawa, employees which are in cahoots with these VIPs. Uh, when it comes to filing of cases, nowadays we also experience parang challenge with the PNP because they do not want to be these incidents to be recorded
Oo.
because that
Right.
would affect
Yeah.
their, how we call this, their performance. So what we
Performa.
do,
Yeah.
we go to the barangay, we file case, and then if it prospers,
Makes
then
sense.
we go directly to the fiscal.
Makes sense.
And
Kasi
okay.
in filing in barangay, it wouldn't reflect, not necessarily reflect to the
Yes.
general crime statistics of the police.
Yes, that's true.
Mm-mm.
I see.
Because the
Okay.
police nowadays wouldn't encourage you to file case or to blatter because
Huh?
it would form part of their statistics.
Pero
Because
that is,
sometimes kasi Miles, there are police stations wherein they
they would
view
like to
their
maintain
yeah,
their
they view their
Zero
crime
incident.
statistic
zero
as their
crime.
parang performance cards.
Pero,
Correct.
Kasi
pero
the
is that tampering the reality? I'm like,
In a way, yes.
di ba?
Yes.
Because the
yeah.
situation is different from my area. The police stations here, sometimes they are disappointed because the
Mhm.
establishment will not pursue it or the tenant will not pursue the case.
Mhm.
So we will have repeat offenders. Now, an interesting question from Eric Mercado: how do you deal with minors?
Minors.
Hi, Sir Eric.
Sir Eric.
Another business profile,
For minors, we collaborate with DSWD and
Okay.
barangay.
You have
Because
contact numbers of them.
yes, most of the times these minors just live within our community.
Okay.
If not, then that's the time we go to DSWD to pick the kids, to turn over the kids and for them to handle them.
All right.
Okay, last question.
For our last question, Edward. Last question
Okay.
coming from MJ Cruz. I'm sorry, but I know there's a lot of questions, but
Oh, pero
we're
okay.
overextending because it's from MJ Cruz of Republic Cement. Waltermart is a retail outlet. However, what steps do you take, if any, to secure your upstream logistics before goods reach your sales floor? So I think this is an issue of pilferage.
From warehouses, we see to it that we have this parang set of measures to monitor our internal employees then. So from there is how you call this a different set of systems to monitor the flow of these items or merchandises. And then the moment it would be transferred to the stores, there's another set of system we are implementing, monitoring the movement coming from warehouse to the stores.
Okay.
And that's it. Yeah. So we have different systems that are set in place to protect these merchandises.
Okay,
Yes,
from a non-security person, I have one final question. Do you share your ro- your VIP profiles to other establishments? Do you have that kind of community where you share information, especially during these holidays?
Actually, that's our proactive approach. So, particularly in North Quezon City, we have this set of establishments around the area wherein monthly we meet and we share
Cool.
information about these
Yeah.
PIPs. Also, on our other branches, we see to it that this profile of VIPs are being shared to the PNPs, to the barangays, as part of our commitment in crime, in preventing crime in the community.
Cool. That's nice. All right.
Thank you very much, Edward, for such a very
Yes.
informative conversation tonight. We hope
Yeah,
that you had
thank you.
fun
I
as
hope
much
I
as
have
we
shared
did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
You did.
So, yeah, and of course, thank you for everyone who tuned in and participated in Business Profiles and Black Pearl Security Podcast, Simply Security. We hope that you enjoyed and learned something new tonight through this episode. We also wish to have you again next time. We are casting live every Wednesday, 6:30 in the evening.